This is Odessa from the Sioux City Public Library, and today we're going to be doing a science experiment with things that you would find in your kitchen. You're going to need some type of dish. A plate would work as well, some food coloring, dish soap, and milk, and Q-tips. The first step that you're going to do, we're going to do a science experiment that contains milk, and do a science experiment that tests what happens when you add different elements to the fats and proteins that you would find naturally in animal milk. This happens to be a 2% milk, and what you're going to do next is you are going to add food coloring. And you want to keep your table pretty stable because we don't want the food colorings to mix. We just put 1 or 2 drops of each color into the milk. And with science experiments, it's fun to explore different ways of what would make the science work and what doesn't. And so we're just going to try and see what would happen if I just stick a basic plain Q-tip in. And as you can see, nothing really happens. The Q-tip might absorb some of the coloring, but other than that, nothing much happens. So what happens if we take and put a little bit of soap right on the Q-tip? Okay, I messed that up. It's science, just go with it. Well, as you can see, when you add soap to the milk, it interacts with the fats and the proteins in the animal milk. And so we have a little bit here, and you can just keep adding, and you can see what will happen as the proteins, we'll just go ahead and do it that way, explore with the animal milk. Use my other arm? Yeah. Okay. There we go. And so the next step that you can do is you can try different liquids. So instead of using milk as the liquid that you're trying, try it with different liquids. You can try different soaps if one works better than the other. You can try different ways of coloring it, such as liquid watercolors versus food coloring. But we're also going to try today to see if a different milk product will work differently, will react differently than the animal 2% milk did. And so maybe vitamin D milk or whole milk will react differently than the 2% or the 1% today. The next one that we're going to try is I had rice milk at home. Now rice milk is going to have a different composition of fats and proteins than what animal milk does. And so we are going to put the rice milk in the dish. We are going to add our food coloring like we did before. And the food coloring is reacting a little bit differently in the rice milk than what it did in the animal milk. So let's go ahead and we'll do it off of the center, there we go. And so we have our dish soap on our Q-tip, and we will go ahead and see, and as you can tell, it still reacts to some of the fats and proteins, but not in such a drastic motion as what the animal milk did. And so experiment with things that you have at home and make beautiful art while you have fun in the kitchen.